Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the October 21st, 2019 Port Authority Board meeting. First order of business is approval or correction of the meeting minutes from last time. Hi, Mr. Freeze, good to see you.
Hello. Make a motion we approve our minutes.
And a motion to approve as written.
I'll second.
John, thank you. We'll get a second. Unless there are any questions, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as written, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Approved. Comments from the public. Mr. Freeze from the Park Authority, Park Department.
No, I don't have anything.
All right.
This time.
All right, thank you. Mr. Frame, report from the Harbor Master.
All right, we continue winterizing the boats down at Trail Creek, and as you can see from looking at the basin, they're thinning out pretty well. We began shutting off the water today to the docks and to the bathhouses, so that'll probably run another 2 days, maybe 3. It's been a little interesting with the water as high as it is. We had to rethink a couple things, but that's going to work out all right. We began removing dock boxes from the 200 dock in preparation for the redecking project. And related to that, Wednesday morning at 9 is the kickoff meeting with Larson Danielson and Edgewater Resources. So we'll find out then when they want to get going on it, but I think it'll be pretty soon. And I don't have anything new on the 800 dock yet, but I expect that anytime. So that's all for now, unless anybody has any questions.
Any questions for the Harbor Master? You mentioned the water level, just information. I was gone Thursday and Friday of last week, and my wife and I went north up to Traverse City, and we hit about 10 different towns on the way up on the Lake Michigan side. I went to every marina that was there just to see how theirs are, and we're in better shape than most. And a lot of docks are underwater, a lot of really dilapidated, a lot of flooded area that just, so we're not alone, and it could be worse, I guess. Anyway, looks like our marina is by far the best one I saw also.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
in regards to the water level in our marina compared to others, take you back, Tim knows about this, take you back to when we did the master plan, and Edgewater at that time looked at what they believed was the 100-year high for water. So obviously they were pretty accurate in what they did. While we have one dock that we have a potential problem, we don't have a problem yet.
Right.
So their forecast and their planning look like a pretty professional job.
Well, as I say, any marina that I saw, and we stopped and looked at a great deal of them, and they had none of the facilities, not the total facilities that we have here. I was really impressed. Those of you who know me know how much I really love the lakefront. All right, any questions any more questions for Mr. Frame? Comments? All right, moving on. Ms. Palicki, administration?
For our winter storage this year, we have got 41 new customers this year. We should hope to have the final report at the next board meeting. And so far, we've had 283 boats for storage and services.
I know it's early to ask, but is it somewhat comparable to prior
It
years?
is comparable to last year.
Thank you. Anything else?
That's all I have. And people are still calling for services. And
Calling for storage?
For storage and services. We're booked up solid till the end of the month already and going into the first week of November.
That's good.
What was the total number of customers? Here it's 22, but I mean total new customers. All.
Oh, this was just for the winter storage.
Oh, that's just for winter
That's just for
storage.
winter storage.
Okay. Yeah, it says it right at the top. All I had to do was read it.
Sorry. I did
Looks like the
thing. I
same
looked
sheet.
at it. Anybody have anything for Ms. Palicki? Moving on. Mr. Garrett, I think you have a couple things on budget and finance for us.
I do. So the first is our bills. I'm going to touch on 5 items on this list. If you're looking, the third one down for $3,582.19 for Barco products. That is for bike racks, and I believe that's for the parking lot, correct? Or
Well, actually, it's for over by the $800.
$800.
We're gonna change them around in there.
okay. And about 6 down from there for $2,924.20 is our water bill. And then if you go to the third from the bottom for $2,894, that is for plants, for potted plants for the marina. And the second one down for $44,448.36, that is fuel for resale. And then in the capital projects is the $4,149.18, which is the Edgewater for the 200 dock. So if you add those 5 items up, they are $58,018.13 of the total between the two, between capital and the others of the 63,000. So for the other 16 items on this list, it's only about $5,000. So if there are no questions, I would make a motion that we pay our bills as presented.
Have a motion to accept to pay the bills as stated.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Manor. I have a second. Questions or comments? Questions or comments? I have one on the Rackham service. Do we think that's close to our final fill up for the year? No? Gee, I was hoping it would be.
Well, there won't be that high, but
Okay.
there's still fuel to come yet.
Fair enough. All right, what else? All right, let's vote. All those in favor of accepting the bills as written, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved.
All right, pass those that direction. Pass those that direction. The second item, I know the budget for 2020
Any changes to what you said?
and the current, what we have up until September 30th, is listed below as in what has actually occurred versus what we budgeted is here. I know we sent this out earlier, or late last week, and I got a couple questions that were just asked of me, and I answered those as they needed to be answered. We'll touch a little bit on that, but there's a couple of things that I wanted to mention before we do budget, because there's things prior to that. So the first thing is, after meeting with the staff and Mr. Manor, we discussed, the first thing was about any rate changes for the following season. And the only suggestion, which I know we mentioned at the end, towards the end of last meeting, was potentially raising some of the rack rates. And what we came up with was basically, make sure I have raising the rack rates $50 for the inside, $50 for the covered, and $50 for the outside. So their current rates, inside is $13.50, covered is $11.50, and outside is $10.50. So they go up to $1,400, $1,200, $1,100 respectively. This was the only suggestion that we came up with, and based on what those are currently, it would bring in a little bit more income to about $6,100. So this is at the board's pleasure. We can either leave the rates as they are for another year or raise them for this. I will leave that up to you guys. I don't think it's a bad idea. It's some of the costs is basically being used to incur. We, as you guys noticed earlier this year, is we've spent quite a bit of money on updating fixing, repairing, and replacing tires as well on the forklifts, and that maintenance is because of these racks, and we have to try and offset that cost somewhere. So this was a suggestion for that.
Okay, you had no other?
No,
rate
everything else would
increases?
stay the same, yeah.
All right, I presume that's a motion?
Yeah,
then,
I
to
would
accept
make that
those?
motion that it would be for the covered inside and outside racks, raising them $50 each.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Mr. Manor just approved that. Any questions concerning the proposed rate increases to include any slip rate increases, any rate increases on our revenue side for next year? Any questions?
I have a question. When was the last time those fees were raised?
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
It's
Yeah.
been a while?
Very long
Okay.
time.
And is this comparable to?
Yes.
Like, okay.
I just have not a question, but just a comment. You know, and I don't have it in front of me, but the 35 footers out in Washington Park versus the 40. I think we addressed that issue like last year on, you know, working to fill or not fill. Is everybody happy with where we are right now and not any more adjustments? You know what I mean?
Yep.
I can't remember it exactly, but we're trying to fill that. If you guys are happy, if it's been touched.
Yeah, because I know
on.
we adjusted the cost on those, yeah.
Yeah, okay. No, I don't have anything else. Anybody else have any other questions? We'll vote.
Were the racks filled this year? They were all at capacity, so we're not gonna run anybody off because of an increase and end up losing?
No,
Shouldn't?
shooting for $50.
Not for 50.
You mean the inside racks, the outside racks?
All the racks, you were talking, we're increasing 3 different ones.
They're the inside racks, the covered racks, and the stacking racks.
Okay.
The single cradle ones were already quite a bit more, that they were $1,500 for a ground rack. We're not raising that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm fine. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Although, all those in favor of accepting the changes to the fees for next year as expressed by our treasurer, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Aaron, I think you've got some more.
I do. So, in addition, we also discussed any raises for the upcoming season, and we played around with quite a bit of numbers. What I will fill you in on this is that I did, and I was ignorant of this, and so I will admit to that, that the previous year, we did not give any of our hourly employees any raises. And this is actually brought up by Mr. Messina, mentioned it to me and said we should find out if that is true. And so I didn't realize that and noticed that we hadn't actually
You know, that's the seasonal.
seasonal hourly.
Seasonal.
Thank you. And so I chatted with the staff and we threw out some numbers because, you know, we work them very hard and they do a great job and we hadn't given them a raise. And so we looking at percentages, we looked at looking at just a dollar amount, and because of by doing percentage raises, I realized and did the math on if we do a 2% or 3% or 4%, whatever it is, on a raise on someone that's hourly, it's, in some cases, $20 a paycheck they may see an increase on versus, and it's, for lack of a better term, just basically saying that it's not very beneficial to them if we do a 3% raise for somebody who's making $9 an hour versus giving them an exact dollar amount of what their raise would be. So I suggested, and with Mr. Manor, of giving them instead of giving them a percentage, give them an actual per hour amount raise. And since we didn't give them a raise previous year versus what we did with some of our other raises, we came up to the amount with suggesting, and this would be my motion, of our seasonal hourly employees being given a 75 cents an hour raise. And this is to compensate for previous year and for the upcoming season.
Okay, so you're making a motion just for the seasonal employees at this time?
At this time, yes, and then I'll
Okay,
talk
you're
about
asking for
this. And I can do them all at once. It's up to you guys.
No, I think
Okay.
let's do it together the way you brought it up. we have a motion to approve the seasonal raise increases of 75 cents an hour. Looking for a second for this.
I'll second it.
We have a second. Questions? Questions? I have a question. What's the approximate rate of our seasonal employees? Approximate.
It could be from, the average is probably around $11, $11.50. There's some less, some more. We have a couple people that's been with us for like 30 years.
Okay, that's about roughly, in my head, roughly 7-8%.
About
Increase
6.
that we haven't done over time. I just wanted to get an idea. Okay, assuming that it's in that general ballpark, 7-8%,
Yep.
which I think is correct. I might be wrong. Any other questions, comments on this motion?
Maybe just a comment, and I appreciate Mr. Garrett looking into my suggestion. I feel that our summer employees, seasonal employees, do an adequate job, and they'll be pleased to see, I think, that the board recommended, and I will be voting yes.
You know, it's a conflict of interest. It's a conflict of interest for you to ask for employment in the summer now.
I had the floor now.
Yes, you did. All right, any other comments or questions? All right, let's vote. All those that are in favor of accepting the 75-cent increase for seasonal people next year, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Done. Aaron, go ahead.
Now, on the other side is the salaried employees. So once again, we discussed numbers. It's easier to do percentage raises than it is to put a dollar amount on these. So we looked at cost of living, which is about 2.5%, somewhere around there right now. And we landed on a number of 3% for our salaried employees for a raise. So that would be my motion, to do our salaried employees at 3%.
Look for a second. Have a second. All right, we have on the floor a motion to give our salaried employees a 3% raise for next year. Any comments or questions? Yes, sir.
Do we have an idea of how many full-time salaried employees we have?
3.
3.
3?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All those in favor of accepting the 3% raise for salary employees, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Mr. Garrett?
And the last thing, which is, if based on what we just voted on, the budget for next year would be correct, and there are no questions with the,
Okay, the
Oh, yeah, we'll
hourly,
talk about
full-time, and part-time.
yeah. Go ahead and say that again, so.
The hourly, for the full-time people, which we have 5 people,
That's right, we've got
4. And then the 2 part-time for the office.
Oh, I thought that was included, oh, because I just
No,
said seasonal.
They're different, yeah, right. They're
So,
different names.
sorry, one more. Sorry. Thank you for
2
saying,
more.
because I was like 2 more things, 1 more on raises. Or unless we need to do those separate, I don't know if that matters. Whether,
You can say together.
Go with any
What-
raises.
okay, so
Separately.
any hourly and it's hourly and part-time would be the same thing as the seasonal with the 75 cents. That would be my last one, correct? Right?
Well, yeah, and the full-time.
And the full, that's what I meant. Yeah, did I not say that? I'm sorry. I have so much to remember. So, same thing we did with seasonal. It would go for hourly, part-time, and full-time. So that would be there's 5, correct? 5 people?
6.
6. Same race. Sorry. I knew I forgot something. So I write things down. So that would be my motion on full-time, part-time as well.
I'll second the motion if you're looking for a second.
We have a motion and a second to approve a 75-cent pay increase for all part-time
And
And
full-time.
full-time hourly.
and
Hourly.
full-time hourly employees.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Questions? Go ahead.
Have you calculated the total cost
For everything?
of all the increases that you suggested?
Yes.
And what would that be in the budget?
Where's my note? Oh, crud bird. Marion, can help me with this one
I
because
think the actual pay increases might have been around 23,000.
yeah.
And the benefits a little bit more, but some of those were offset from retirement and the longevity and vacation from the people that have left last year.
You don't see
It was
very
all
much
within,
what we had already had.
yeah,
It
basically almost what we had.
because if you look at the budget, it actually went down in compensation this year because of retirements. So
Once again, can you just give me a rough number
it was
of
20.
benefits and salary increases, total package? What does it do to the budget?
About 25.
I think it was like 27 possibly. It
27?
was all within, yeah, everything was within,
What we currently have.
we just had to tweak a few things.
And obviously, you're comfortable with that?
Yeah.
In terms of the total budget?
Correct.
Okay. That's my question, thank you.
We have a motion and a second, so we are on questions. Anyone else have questions on this? Okay. I had previously looked just for my own self, because I'm a numbers guy, and I knew that 3% across the board was somewhere close to 15 to 20,000 in there. So, and I didn't include all the benefit amounts, so, I'm comfortable myself with the numbers you're kicking around for our costs. And it could be real hard, so. All right, no other question? No other, yes, sir, excuse me, Mr. Banner.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but this didn't actually add $27,000 to our budget.
No.
We actually looked at other areas and we moved money around, is what we did. So it didn't add
No,
$27,000.
I'm just looking at the
Right.
salary portion of the overall budget.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that's all.
The only additional one that we added anything to the income was $20,000.
There's NIPSCO.
Yes. and that
Was toward
next.
NIPSCO, which we raised for Washington Park Slipper, and because we felt with what it looks like we're gonna have next year, that would be up some. That was all.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor and a second to go forward with salary increases. So unless there are any other questions on that, before we start talking about the
Yep.
rest of the budget, we'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor of accepting the 75 cents per hour for part-time
And full-time hourly employees.
and hourly employees, yes. Essentially, that's the balance of our staff. We've talked about the
Yep.
other two. Okay. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Accepted. All three accepted as proposed. Thank you, Ron.
Last but not least,
Yep.
based on what we just approved, this is the budget for next year. I know we sent this out, like I said earlier in the conversation. The only thing that, if you look at our bottom line, was increased by 20,000, and that is for the projected slip holder rentals in Washington Park for our NIPSCO bill, because we saw a little spike in that this year because our rentals were up. So we just wanted to cover that. So I would, if there are no other additional questions, I would make a motion that we approve our 2020 budget for coming year.
Okay, we have a motion to accept
I'll second it.
and a second to approve the budget as it's been dispensed and to all of us to review. Comments or questions? One, Mr. Messina.
Yeah, I had a question, comment, I guess, and I talked to Mr. Good about it also. And when I look at the overtime cost,
Okay.
it seemed a little bit high to me. And the explanation was mostly because of the,
Events.
Yeah, special events that occur.
some of the special events that.
And we've had part of a missing time when we had a retirement last year, and before the seasonal could start, that we had to convert some of them, but most of it is through the events that we have. When we have to have people from 7 in the morning till 6 at night, and they've already worked their 40 hours, a lot of them.
Am I looking at the right number? You're talking overtime on the expense section of this year?
Page one here.
Roughly $15,000?
Do we see anything on the return side of that from the special events that we have, that we do have overtime for employees to work their events? I know the boat show used to pay our salaries.
The 4th of July is just that we don't receive anything from it. It's just part of what we do for our voters.
Yeah, we're budgeted 21,000 even, and we're right on line to finish it out that way the rest of the year. If I'm looking at what you're doing.
Yeah, you are. And I
Yeah,
think-
we're under what we were this
yeah.
time last year.
Oh, yeah.
It, like I said, my example was like with forklift drivers and with us having some retirements and stuff. If there's only 3 of them and they're all 3 scheduled for one day, but one gets sick, somebody has to cover that. So
All right, did you get an answer to your question?
Sure. Not that I agree with it.
Seriously?
Yes.
Okay. We'll move on. Any other comments or questions on the budget, either the revenue or the expense side? All right, hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of accepting the budget as presented and written, both the revenue and the expense side, which totals of roughly, what, $20,000 more than
Difference,
last
yeah.
year, roughly. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion accepted. Got a budget done.
that's all I got, unless there's any other questions.
Very good. We thank you for your time and that, working with the staff to take care of that, Mr. Guerin.
A question on the budget. I assume that we've done our forecast on next year's anticipated income.
Yes.
And how does that number compare to this year's number?
Well, we're hoping it's gonna be up, but we're not gonna know until we get next year.
Somehow, Mary Ann, I anticipated that answer.
Well, yes.
You know,
So if we keep the water level
I mean,
where it's at, I think we'll be fine. Or we'll definitely see an increase.
and everything that is over at the end of the year, we transfer from the operating account into the capital improvement.
Well, the reason I asked the question is that based on all the information we've had year to date on slip rental income, it's $100,000 or more better than it was last year. But when I looked at your transfer number, it remained pretty well the same. And I expected to see at least a part of that new $100,000 in the transfer number.
But at the end, we take what money we transfer into that plus, then in January, what's left, we'll take what's ever left of the budget and gonna go into there.
So I think what I hear you saying is that after the end of the year, when you do your year-end financial report, those numbers are going to change some.
Mhm.
Okay.
yeah, you know, you don't balance out the budget on the budget side for what goes into capital normally. Any excess over and above that goes into capital
Yeah.
also.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay,
That's,
we're all together.
and that's what I mentioned to Ms. Frame just before the meeting started. Gotta look nice out there. All right, unless there's anything else from Mr. Garrett, move on. Mr. Haynes, claims and insurance.
I have nothing to report.
Okay. I know we usually get roughly this time on insurance, we look at what's going to be our bill for next year. I'm
Yes.
assuming you're taking a
Yes,
look.
I left a message
Got it. That's fine.
Friday,
Gotcha.
Thursday, Friday.
Just wanted to bring it up. Moving on, port operations, personnel, marina policy, from myself. I do not have anything that hasn't already been discussed, either this meeting or last meeting, unless anyone has anything for me. All right, moving on, Mr. Messina, Board of Communications Special Event.
I have nothing to report.
All right. Mr. Manor, Master Planning Special Projects.
I have nothing to report on master planning and special projects, but I do have a couple of things to say about the Park Board meeting that I attended. The Park Board approved preliminary plans to improve the big cat exhibit at the zoo. It's going to provide a lot more space. It's going to be friendlier as a natural habitat for the cats. They're actually going to have boulders and things like that, or simulated boulders in there that the cats can get up on. And it's also going to be a better viewing opportunity for the public, the way it's going to be designed. So that's a pretty major job for our already fantastic zoos that we had here. And I'm just speaking to this because we have a viewer audience, of course, that looks at our meetings and stuff, and I think it's important that they know it as well as the board knows it. So it's just a FYI thing. Last year, Millennium Plaza looked really, really nice with the, at least I think it did, with the landscaping. So they renewed the Millennium Plaza landscaping service agreement for next year. I believe they passed that, didn't they, Phil?
Yes.
Yes, they passed that. So that's very important that we keep our beautification all along the lakefront down here up, for our community and stuff like that, and also our visitors. So I was happy to hear that. The Park Board last year had a lot of trouble finding lifeguards to fully staff the beach. They had to eliminate some in certain areas on the beach, and had to work some people overtime. They're looking for employment next year for lifeguards. The applications that are put in, the minimum age requirement for that is 15 years old. If anybody knows anyone, or anybody in the public knows anyone, whether they have high school students or college students, but that's just the minimum. Maximum, it's nothing. I mean, we could have adult lifeguards if some adults are looking for a lifeguard, looking for a job this summer. They have to be certified. They all have to be certified. If they're not certified, I'm not sure exactly where they have to go or what they have to do to get certified, but anybody that's interested in something like that, Jeremy Keenitz, who is our Park Board Superintendent, his phone number is 873-1506. That's 219-873-1506. Or you can contact Jeremy at jkkeenitz@emichigancity.com. And he told me he'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody had about it. And I think it's important for safety purposes that we really concentrate on trying to get lifeguards for our beach area and stuff. So I think that's all good information that the public should know, and I think the board should know that information too. So thank you. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Bruce. Any comments, questions for Mr. Manor?
I will, just as a sidebar, but on that, we'll make sure I reach out to our swim coaches, because
Okay.
a lot of them sometimes lifeguard in the summer, and
Right.
I didn't even realize there was a need for
I'm not
that.
sure, but I think Jeremy reaches out to them too, but I'm not sure.
Sometimes I have a little bit more of a
Yeah, a little bit more of an input.
but yeah, so I will, I mean, it's not like they're doing it for free, so.
Right. Right.
Bruce, has there been any more discussion by the Park Board regarding the status of the master plan?
The master plan for the Park Board?
Yeah.
No, not that I'm aware of. Tim might be able to speak to that, but I'm not aware of any more discussion on it.
Okay.
You haven't heard anything either, Tim?
Not recently.
Were
Anybody
there,
else?
yes, were there any discussions on the seasonal pay for like the lifeguards or any of the people that work during the
I don't think they
Seasonal.
talked about the pay, but anybody can contact Jeremy and find out, what the pay is and where they would possibly get certified if they're not, and so forth and so on. But I don't think the money issue was brought up, I don't think.
All right. Moving on. Mrs. Beer, Advertising, Public Relations.
I have nothing to report.
All right, anything from Mrs. Beer? Attorney's report. Mr. Zach Newman, it's all yours.
Thank you. I reviewed the proposed contract for the redecking of the 200 dock. It's substantially similar to the contract that we entered into for the 300 dock. I noticed nothing in it that caused me any concern, and I passed that information along to Mr. Frame and Colin. And that's all I have.
Right. Along that line, I also believe that Mr. Colin Hastinger gave the engineering approval that there was nothing wrong, so 200 dock redecking is on the board to get started, like talked about. It was all approved at our last meeting, pending these two things. So that's good. Any new business to come before the board? Any old business to come before the board that we haven't already talked about? Mr. Freeth, do you have anything for us? Any?
No, you can go online about the lifeguards and put out a request to the school. I know we used to have, and I've not been teaching for a while, but we used to have a class that could get certified for their life saving. I do not know if that's still the case or not, but they can contact the YMCA also. But Jeremy would be the best bet.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much. As a former lifeguard down here in this beach for 6 years in the 50s and the 60s, I can appreciate what's happening and having trouble finding people. I don't have anything else, so I'll accept the motion for adjournment.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. We are adjourned. Next meeting is November 4th. What is election day?